Welcome to Backyard Science. My name is Marilyn. I work at the Marina branch of the Monterey County Free Libraries, and generally I do preschool story time, but today I will be looking at some superb stars with you. For our episode today, we will learn some star facts, a little bit of stargazing history, check out some springtime constellations or star patterns, and even draw a few of our own. In our Splendid Sun episode, we learned that the sun is actually a star, our nearest one, and that it's responsible for life here on Earth. We also learned that stars themselves are balls of very hot gas undergoing nuclear fusion, unlike the classic 5 or 6 pointed flat symbols that we associate them with. However, when we look up at the night sky, there is so much more to discover. Humans have been stargazing pretty much since the beginning of our existence, mapping the seeming movement of the stars around us, using them to navigate the ocean, forests, wide flat plains and deserts, and making up legends and myths to match the patterns or constellations we see in the night sky. Because of the seeming movement of the stars, which is actually caused by the Earth moving through space, which we'll get to a little more in a bit, it's good to go out at the same time each night to understand how the stars move in the sky. This is what historical astronomers did, so you can do the same thing from your backyard. You can also go out at half-hour or hour intervals throughout the night to understand how the stars rise and set. Now for some stargazing tips. You want to find a clear, cold night, which will be a little opportunistic here in Monterey, where it can be very foggy and cloudy. You're going to want to bundle up, and you're also going to want to bring a comfortable chair, a star chart guide or app, and some patience. Optional things you'll need are binoculars, maybe a nature journal if you like, and a red light, which I don't have, but it will let you look at your journal or charts without messing up how your eyes are able to look. When you look at a bright light, it takes away your ability to see some of the dimmer stars in the sky. If you're stargazing from your backyard, which most of us will be, it's best to turn off as many lights as you can and give your eyes a little bit to adjust. Anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes will really bring out some of the dimmer stars in the sky. It's best to find a dark, high place if you can, but there are still plenty of bright stars that you can see from your backyard. Before we get into our constellations, some cool things about stars. What we see about stars is the light that they emit. Remember from our Splendid Sun video that light travels at 299,792 kilometers per second, or 186,282 miles per second. At that speed, you could go around the Earth 7.5 times in 1 second. That's the speed of light. Stars are so far away that we measure their distance by how far light travels in a year, or a light year. So if you can imagine the number of seconds in a year, that means that 1 light year is 5.88 trillion miles, or 9.5 trillion kilometers. So even the nearest stars at several light years away are still quite far. One of the most interesting things that I love about stars is that because they are so far away and their light takes so long to get to us, we are seeing the light they emitted in the past. So stargazing is almost like time travel. The data about different cultures that I'm saying is from the article Figures in the Sky by astronomer Nadia Bremer, where she has visualized how many ancient and current cultures have viewed the constellations. She got a lot of her data from the free open source software Stellarium, which you can download to your computer and use to view the night sky. Now that we've found north by using the Big Dipper to find Polaris, which is this direction for me, you're going to turn 90 degrees to the west. Something that you can do this time of year is find a golden, very bright spot sort of near the horizon, and that is actually not a star, it is a planet, Venus. It's our nearest planetary neighbor and the second planet from the sun. Venus is one of the brightest things in the western sky at this time of year, and it doesn't flicker as much as a star because it is a planet made of solid material that is much, much closer than our gaseous star friends that are undergoing constant nuclear fusion and are trillions and trillions of miles away. So that's how we know that it is a planet and not a star. Other planets that we can see with the naked eye at different times of year are Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, and Mars. Above Venus, you can see Auriga, which looks kind of like a floppy hexagon, but it is known as the charioteer in Greek mythology. On the charioteer's left shoulder, you see Capella, which is the brightest star in that constellation, which is the golden star, and it's the sixth brightest star in the night sky. Capella is actually a star system made of 4 stars, and the 2 biggest ones are about 2.5 times the size of our sun. And it's about 43 light years away, which is really far but relatively close compared to some of the things we see in the night sky. Capella, the golden star, is known across several cultures as the goat star, which is pretty interesting. Up to the left of Auriga, we see the twins, Castor and Pollux, in the constellation Gemini. Castor and Pollux make up the men's heads, while lighter stars make up their bodies. It looks like they're standing next to each other. This is a good example of stars we relate to each other that are actually some distance apart. Castor is a 6-star system that's 52 light years from Earth, and Pollux is 34 light years from Earth. This is true for most of the groupings that we think of as constellations. Now, to look at a different part of the sky. We're going to notice in this video that the Big Dipper has earned its name as the navigational rock star. So if you go back to the Big Dipper, which again at this time of year is up, you're going to look at the inside part of the bowl and draw a line from the bottom to the top of it and go, so if you're looking up like this, it would go behind you and you'll go into the southwest part of the sky, and the next brightest star that you'll see is Regulus, which Harry Potter fans might recognize, and it's the front foot of the constellation Leo, or the lion. Above Regulus, you'll see a backwards question mark that makes up the lion's head, and it's also called the sickle across some cultures. You might have noticed a theme. Regulus is another 4-star system, just like Capella. And it appears to us as one of the brighter stars in the night sky, even though it's 79 light years from our sun. Once you have found the leak in the bowl that leads to Leo from the Big Dipper, and found Regulus, if you go back along the lion's body, you will see Denebola, which represents the lion's tail. This is actually derived from the Arabic phrase Deneb al-Asad, with the same meaning. This is an example of cultural exchange and influence between astronomers in history, in this case between ancient Greece and medieval Muslim scholars. Many of the scientific methods and terms that we still use today, like azimuth, come from Muslim scholars during that time period. The history of astronomy is a little too in-depth to go into for this segment, but it is really interesting and you should definitely check it out if you're interested. Getting back to the Leo constellation, Denebola appears dimmer than Regulus, even though it is much closer at 36 light years than Regulus is 79, because it is a much younger and dimmer star. So we found the Big Dipper, Polaris, Auriga, Castor and Pollux, and we've also checked out Leo. And so I want to show you one more very bright star that you will most likely be able to see. I was actually able to see it yesterday before the sun had even completely set. If you look back up to the Big Dipper and trace the handle, you can arc to Arcturus. This is the brightest star in the northern celestial hemisphere. Although it's only a little bigger than the sun, it is twice as old and much brighter. It's about 36 light years from our sun. It's part of the constellation Boötes in the Western world, known as Guardian of the Bear. A common theme in Greek mythology is famous figures and legends were immortalized by being made constellations in the sky. So Boötes is associated with Ursa Major, the Great Bear. If you have a nature journal, it can be fun to draw the constellations that you see, or even try to make up ones that you would like to see without using the ones that are classic. Here is my picture that I drew of the Big Dipper. Here are the pointer stars, which you can point down to Polaris. Here I also showed the direction of, here's where my house is, the west, east, and then I also attempted to show, if I'm looking straight up here, how you would arc over towards the east to Arcturus and Boötes, which that constellation has mostly dimmer stars. But that you can also do that at different times of the night and different days and watch the stars seem to move. The other thing you can do is hold up your hand or your finger as a measurement to how big constellations are. The Big Dipper might be as big as your hand, but other constellations might be only about the size of your thumb. If you kept observing the sky over weeks, you would notice that some stars disappear and other ones appear. Why is that? Well, the short answer is that the Earth is moving, and so the stars that we see from where we're standing will change. There are many kinds of movement involved in that. First of all, the Earth rotates each day, which causes the stars to rise and set like the sun and moon. It is also revolving around the sun each year, which creates different seasons, and that radically changes the constellations that are in the sky. On top of that, the sun is sitting on its own little arm of the Milky Way, which is also rotating, and the Milky Way is actually slowly moving towards the Andromeda galaxy. Oh, that's the other thing. If you are looking up on an especially clear night, you might see kind of a cloudy white mist across the sky, and that is our galaxy, the Milky Way. So keep an eye out for that on very, very clear nights. It is beautiful. So because our sun is moving with our solar system, and even the stars are part of their own systems that are moving, if you were to look from Earth in a few thousand years, you might see totally different constellations. But for us, the constellations change each season and by which hemisphere of the Earth that we're on. Here is my Earth model. In the northern hemisphere, the line in the middle, around the very middle, is the equator, and the northern hemisphere is where we are in California, and the southern hemisphere are where Australia, most of Africa, and South America is. So if you look from the bottom of the planet, you're going to see different stars than if you're on the top of the planet. And also, if you are in Alaska, you're going to see the stars rise and set at different times than if you're down here in California or in Baja. Stars are really interesting, but if you want to find something a little closer to home, you can also spot the International Space Station as it orbits the Earth doing research. Go to spotthestation.nasa.gov to find sighting opportunities in your area. Here in here in Monterey tonight at 8:56 p.m. The station will appear at 11 degrees above south-southwest, reach a maximum height at 29 degrees, and set or disappear at 11 degrees east-northeast. It will also appear again at 10:32 p.m. So if it's a clear night, you can go out and spot it. It appears for about 5 minutes at a time. Also, on our emcfl.org website, if you go to the Kids tab, you will go to the Storytime section and look at Storytime from Space. And there you can see astronauts reading stories from the International Space Station, which is super cool. Well, that concludes our superb star exploration for this week. Because humans have observed stars long before we had the technology to really understand them, stargazing and its history is a great intersection between storytelling and science. And you can learn a lot about different cultures by the figures and legends they saw in constellations from their backyard. You can also observe the night sky with open source software like Stellarium, and you can search virtual telescope for other ways to turn your computer into a telescope to see more stars. I hope you're inspired to explore more about the night sky. There is so much more to see, and I hope you go out at different seasons too, because you will see new constellations. We here at the Monterey County Free Libraries are happy to help you discover your backyard. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and see you next week. Bye!